Hello, everyone. Welcome to Book Club Preview. I'm Michael, and today we're looking at A Midsummer Night's Dream, Act 1, Scene 2, and Act 2, Scene 1. So let's jump into it right away. We have some new characters in these two scenes. The first one in Scene 2 here is just a bunch of players. They're actors creating some kind of play for the wedding. There's Snug, Bottom, Flute, Snout, Quince, and Straveling, and there might be one more I forgot there. It's important to note Bottom, and Bottom is so funny because he just feels so confident, and he wants to play three different parts. He's like, I'll play a lion, I'll play a woman, and I'll play the main character that you want me to play, and he kind of acts in each one and kind of shows his skill. And later on, I think he'll have a much bigger role. This picture here is a hint, but we'll see what happens on later. In the next act, we have the kind of fairy court. The first one is Puck. Puck is a mischievous fairy that plays a lot of tricks on people. There's just a fairy that's one of the queen's maidens, in a way. She runs around and sprinkles dew places and things like that to make the world beautiful, I guess, for the fairy queen. There's Oberon. He's the fairy king, and he's really upset in most of this play, and definitely in the beginning. And there's Titania, and Titania is the fairy queen, and she's also upset with Oberon, and they're both really cranky. And I think that is all for those characters. So, and here's a picture of Titania. So it starts off with the guy that wrote the play. I think his name is Peter. I can't quite remember. And he's handing out the roles, and he's saying, "Okay, everyone, you need to be this person. You need to be this person. We're gonna have a comedy with some romantic tragedy in it." And everyone's like, "Oh, okay, it's gonna be a great play." He passes out the parts, and as I mentioned, Bottom, he's like, "Oh, let me play that part. Oh, that guy doesn't want to play that part. I'll play that part too. Oh, you should hear me play this part." And he's really funny. And at the end of that scene, they're all just saying, "Okay, let's go to the woods and we're going to practice. Because if we practice here, everyone's going to see what we're going to do, and we want it to be a surprise." And I think traditionally these actors are really bad. But for me, it's a little hard to see that because the actors are so good in that YouTube BBC version that I gave you. They're just so fantastic. It's hard for me to catch that they're probably really poor at acting in the story. But it could be interpretation. Maybe they're really good in this version. So the next scene is Scene 2, Act 1. And it starts off with Puck and a fairy. And Puck kind of asks this fairy, "Hey, well, what are you up to? Who are you?" And she's like, "Oh, I am one of the maidens of the fairy queen, and I'm doing this." And she's like, "You better go away because the fairy queen's coming." And Puck's like, "Whoa, whoa, whoa, you need to go away because the fairy king is coming, and he's in a really bad mood, so you should go tell your mistress to get out of here." And the fairy's like, "Hey, wait a second. I know you. Aren't you Puck? Aren't you that scoundrel? Aren't you that Robin Goodfellow?" And that's a common name that you'll hear in a lot of literature. Robin Goodfellow, kind of good for nothing, troublemaker. And Puck is like, "Oh, yes, I am." I really love the voice of Puck. In the audio that I linked in the description. His voice is just so like Peter Pan, almost very childish and fun. And Puck just says, "Oh yeah, sometimes I do this, and sometimes I play these tricks and these jokes," and he just kind of shares a little bit of his mischief. And then enter Oberon and Tatiana. And immediately there's this tension, right? Like your mom and dad fighting. Right, they're kind of looking at each other, and Oberon is like, "Have you come to apologize?" And Tatiana's like, "Have you come to apologize?" And they accuse each other of having lovers. Oberon says, "Oh, you came here just because you love Theseus," and she's like, "Oh, you came here just because you like Hippolyta," and they're like, "No, I don't. No, I don't," and they're kind of accusing each other of kind of loving a bunch of other people, and oh my goodness, it's pretty complicated. Oberon finally gets to the point, and he's like, "Hey, give me the Indian boy, and I'll forgive you." Well, who's this Indian boy? What's going on here? Tatiana kind of explains a little bit, and in India, there was a woman, okay, and she worshipped or followed Tatiana, however you want to say it. And so Tatiana really enjoyed this woman, and this woman would like bring her gifts and bring her trinkets, and she really liked her, and Tatiana had her favor on her. Well, this woman got pregnant, she had a baby, and then she passed away. And Tatiana felt so bad that she took and adopted the Indian boy, and so she's gonna grow this Indian boy in place of her mom. And for some reason, this makes Oberon really angry. Puck kind of talks about it a little bit in the ferry, because Oberon thinks that the queen is in love with this Indian boy, but the queen is just saying she wants to take care of the Indian boy. And Oberon wants the queen to give him the Indian boy. And he's like, "Give him to me. He'll be my servant. He'll be my squire or my henchman. And then I'll be happy." But the queen says, "No, I'll never give him to you. Not even for your kingdom." That's how precious he is and how precious honoring his mom is to me. So that's this Indian boy. And this kind of caused all of this conflict and issue. The queen says, like, even the seasons are messed up because of the fight that Oberon and I say Tatiana, but I don't think it's Titania. There you go. Sorry about that. Titania, yeah. And so they end up getting angry at each other, and Titania goes away, and Oberon stays. Now, Oberon makes a plan with Puck, and he says, "Hey, Puck, do you remember when we saw Cupid flying, and he shot an arrow, but the arrow fell, and it hit a flower, and it changed the flower from white to red?" And Puck's like, yeah, I remember. And he's like, "Go get me that flower. I'm going to make a love potion out of it." And Puck's like, "Okay, I'm going to be, boom, 45 minutes. And he goes, whoosh, and he disappears, and he's running off, and he goes gets this flower. And Oberon says, "I'm going to put the juice of this flower in Titania's eyes and make her fall in love with some animal or beast or whatever. The first thing she lays her eyes on, and it's going to be funny, and then I'm going to heal her, and she's going to come back to me." And so that's kind of his plan. Now, while he's sitting here thinking to himself, he hears Demetrius and Helena. And he's like, "Well, I'm invisible, so I'm just going to stay here and listen to what's going on." And so Demetrius and Helena enter, and oh man, this is so hard to read because Demetrius is such a jerk. He's just so mean to Helena, and even though he's saying really bad things to Helena, and this is also terrible because she's just like, "Oh, even though you're so mean to me, I still love you. Keep being mean to me. Even if I can just be with you, treat me like your dog, and I'll just be your dog." And I'm like, nah. Oh my goodness. This is so tragic to see a woman played like this. And then Demetrius is just such a jerk about it. And, oh, it's awful. But as Oberon sees this, Puck comes back. They go away. And Oberon says, "Hey, look, Puck, I just saw these two humans walking through the forest. One of the guys is wearing some Athenian garb. So I want you to put some of this love potion in his eyes when he sees this woman, Helena, so that way he falls in love with her. Because he's kind of a jerk, and she really loves him, and I want this guy to love her more than she loves him." And so Puck says, "Yes, I'll do it." He goes away. And that is the end of the scene. Whew. Sorry, that's for a lot. But scene 2 was just so short. There really wasn't anything exciting in there. We really had to combine both of these. Vocabulary, of course, please pick 2 expressions or words, define them in the YouTube comments, and we can talk about them. And if there's some clarification, I can redefine them for you and help explain it a little bit more. My discussion question here for you. What do you think, Oberon and Titania? Should Titania give the Indian boy to Oberon? As far as I can tell, well, no, you know what? I don't want to influence your opinion, okay? I'll just leave it at that. Should the fairy queen give this Indian boy to Oberon? Because it's causing quite a bit of fight here going on. What do you think would be the best action? What would you do if you were her? Or maybe if you were Oberon, what would you do if you were him? How would you get Titania to give you the boy? Or would you give up the boy? You know, a whole bunch of different ways we can ask this question. What do you think? Of course, please make your own discussion question. That is all the time that we have for today. But thank you so much for joining me for this episode of Book Club Preview. I'll see you soon. Bye-bye.
Hey, if you have any questions about the video today, please feel free to leave a comment in the comment section. If you had any other vocabulary words that you wanted to know what they meant, let me know. And also, if you're interested in maybe joining one of these book clubs, please leave a comment and I'll get back to you. Thank you so much for watching. Bye-bye.